message today is, what is your desire? And desire can be something that could actually be in our way as we strive, as we strive to serve God. Our desires could be in our way. And so I want to ask you guys a question. What is your desire? What is your true, deepest desire? Not what your friends want, not what people say is cool, not what media advertises, but what is your true desire? What is it as something that you want? You spend most of the time dreaming about it. You spend most of the time working for it. So what is it? You don't have to tell me. You could just answer to yourself. But to summarize it, I think all of us want something in common, and that is happiness. Would you guys agree that's a fair statement? We all want happiness, right? We all believe happiness is entitled to every person. And thing is, we see happiness in different forms. People in this world see happiness in different forms. We see it differently. But I want to tell you something, that true happiness can only be found in Jesus Christ. And you cannot find it outside of Jesus. Now, Jesus will give you all the other things, but those things alone can never give you happiness. So over the weekend, I was in Portland, and I met this guy sat next to me in a restaurant, and he spoke to me for an hour or so, and he told me that he's well-off guy. He owns a dealership with 30 plus cars, right? He owns a couple of houses, and he was talking to me about what he wants to do in the future. And his goals and his desires are to have more properties, more money coming from sales of his cars, and he wants to have a certain amount of dollars in his account by the time he's 80. And that's it. And I was like, that is so shallow. Because to him, finances are happiness. That's how he defines it. And he thinks when he achieves all this, he will be happy. I highly doubt he will be happy when he reaches that too. Alex once told us if... You're all good. Alex once told us that if we were content, if we were happy with a $100,000 home, there would not be 200,000. And if people were happy with 200,000, there would not be $500,000. And if they were happy there would not be $10 million. And then ginormous $250,000 million dollar mansions. So no matter how far you go, if it ain't Jesus, it ain't worth it. And so in the end, this guy turned out to be a total cheapo. He's like, I pump up my tires on my Geo Metro and tune off my engine to get 8 extra miles on a tank. And he thinks it's funny and cool. And I'm like, that's cool. But the point is, you're missing the point. The point is, you will not be happy with more money. The point is, 8 more miles to a tank will not do you any good if it ain't Jesus. And we have this thing, we have this saying, the grass is greener on the other side. And so we always strive to be on the other side and missing the point that Jesus already gave us everything that we could ever wish for or want. But we are a microwave generation. We want a happy life, and we want it now, and we want to know everything, and we want to know everything now, right? And so, I know some people that if they want a question answered, they will Google it right away. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of the conversation. But people in this world, they desire riches, they desire to go on vacations, love, knowledge, stability, all these things that people desire, but they cannot be found outside of God. That is my point. And sadly, many Christians, they do not seek of God's will and God's approval for a lot of their decisions in their life. That is the sad part. We, out of all people, should know that we depend on God for everything, and that we live, and our desire is in God and not in the things that we think support us, like parents, like friends, like your bank account. That does not support you. That is a tool, and those are friends given to you by God in order to achieve a higher purpose, not to stop there. And I want to ask you guys a question. Have any of you eaten today? I'm sure you guys all ate, and it's normal, right? It's normal to want to eat. It's normal to desire to eat. And let me tell you something. We must all desire to do God's will just as much as we desire food every morning, right? We must all desire to do God's will just as much as we want food and water. Because if we don't do God's will, then we're just wasting it. We're just killing it. And so food the church can be our food, right? Worship is our appetizer. There are some cheap people who never get appetizer. They just stand and worship and they don't sing because they're main course kind of people. So they just listen to the word and that's cool. But you should get an appetizer. You should participate. And the prayer is the dessert. It's the best part, right? At least it should be. And so God feeds us in a church. God feeds us outside of church through soap, right? A scripture, observation, application, prayer. If you guys do it, that is how God speaks to you. That is how you get your daily food. That's how you open the fridge and get some so you would grow in strength. And some people, they come to church. They eat God's food. They open the refrigerator. They get this food. They hear it, right? They hear the word. They think about it. But then they just throw it away. A lot of people, they come to church and they just waste it. They just take this food and they don't share with anybody, but nor do they eat it. And I don't want us to be those kind of people. And so today I want to speak mainly to those kind of people. It's like, don't waste it. What is your desire for the future? If it's to get some money, if it's to get a better car, if it's to put spinners on your Geo Metro, that ain't going to do it. That ain't going to cut it, and you will not be happy. And Jesus was hungry once, and apostles, they tried to find a way to feed Jesus. And you know what Jesus answered? You want to hear? John 4. Open up to John 4, verse 34 and 35. My food, Jesus said, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Don't you have a saying, it's still 4 months until harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. So don't be a person who just takes the food out of the fridge and then just throws it out. Consume it, utilize it, get this energy, and share it. Share it with the world. You know why? Because the world is starving. The world is starving. And we, Christians, can be greedy. You receive the word at church, you receive the word, you receive this food as you read the Bible, and if you don't share it, then you're greedy and you only care for yourself. Because if all you have achieved over all your years is to save yourself and nobody else, then you failed of the purpose. Jesus says, open your eyes and see how many people need salvation. That is what he's saying through this. To save them was Jesus' mission, right? He died for us on the cross. Now he gives us our mission. Our mission is to preach the gospel. Our mission is to reach out to people. And you guys know our church is about to do this at the end of the month. We're about to reach out to people. So participate. So have that be your desire to reach out, to have this as your mission, and live for God faithfully. If you're gonna live for God halfway here, halfway there, you might as well not even try. God does not like lukewarm people, and he will spit you out. He will not have you here. So give God your 100, or don't even bother. So what does God desire? That's another question. We know what we desire. I just listed all these things. We do truly want these things, but we should want God more. But what does God desire? Deuteronomy 10. Deuteronomy. Thank you. I always pronounce that wrong. And now, Israel, and I can safely substitute Israel with Christians, right? And now, Christians, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good. I like how he says for your own good. You know why? Because that's saying that if you follow all these things, it will be for your own good, and you will be happy because you are serving God and you are following all the decrees and commands that the Lord has given, and you fear God. You fear to offend him with your sin. So here's a question. Is God asking too much of us? Is it really that difficult? I don't think so. So if you walk with God and if your desires are in God, God will make everything so much easier, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There will be hardships. There will be difficult times when it's hard to see or feel God's presence. But God is always by us. God is always beside us. He's always amidst us. He's always walking by us. And he always takes care. He's always a step ahead. So, that being said, in God, we find a true happiness. And I used this example before. I don't know if I used it here or elsewhere, but a sparrow once challenged an eagle for a race across the ocean. No? All right, well, he did. And the eagle was like, all right, let's do this. And the sparrow just takes off and starts flopping his wings, and the eagle is just sitting on a tree. And the sparrow flies away a little bit, and he looks, the eagle's still sitting, and he's like, what's this guy doing? He comes back and he's like, yo, man, you realize we're racing? He goes, yep. He goes, you realize I said go? Yep. He goes, okay, I'll cross it first. And he takes off and starts flopping his wings. The eagle is just sitting. Maybe 10 minutes pass, maybe 20 minutes pass. The eagle is just sitting there. And then the eagle sees a breeze coming over the mountains, right? And you see all the trees start shaking. And then the eagle just opens up his wings, and he literally has to do nothing. He's just taken. And so the sparrow is still flopping his wings, and the eagle just soars right above him, right? He keeps going. Does not even put any effort into it. And don't get me wrong, we will have to flop our wings time to time. We will have our hard times. But if we depend on God's will, and if we live according to God's will, God will be like this breeze, right? God will be like, how do we sing this? I wrote it somewhere. Anyway, God will be like this wind, and he will take us. And Joseph will be a great example. You know, Joseph had his ups and downs. Joseph was a brother. Then he was sold as a slave. Then he was almost like second to master in the house. And then he was in prison, which is even lower than a slave. And then he was second to the king, right? And so you will have your ups and downs. But through every one of these instances, Joseph never quit. Joseph never gave up. He could have get angry in God and say, I tried here, and I was a favorite son of my father, but then I was a slave. And then I tried to serve you, and I was almost the second to the master of the house, but now I'm even lower. I'm in prison. He could have just said, I quit. Like, what's the point? But he remained faithful, and he was in jail a long time. If you think that being between 20 and 40 is like your prime time, right? Well, Joseph might have spent that in jail. Imagine that. It's easy to be angry with God at that point. It's like, I wasted all my best years. All these times I could have, run at the ocean and get all sore next day. I sat in jail. And though it might sound cool nowadays, it's easy to get mad at God and say, what are you doing to me? But in the end, he saved his family. He saved all of Egypt out of famine, right? And so through ups and downs, we gotta always rely on God, and we gotta remember that God is like this wind. Maybe the sparrow was ahead for a long while. Maybe you see all these people, they're buying houses and they're doing right, and they got all these nice cars, and they're serving in a church, but you think you're like, well, where do I fit in? But if you trust in God, God will take you ever so high that you never even thought you'd ever be this high. And it's not difficult. I was asking you guys, do you guys think it's too much or is it difficult? Matthew 11:28, come to me all you weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus himself says that it's easy. It is easy. And David says, my heart rejoiced when I was told, let us go in the house of the Lord. So we all must rejoice. We all must enjoy this food. But more importantly, we must share it with the starving world. And you will have your opportunity at the end of the month. So if you guys didn't sign up yet, you can sign up with Christina, to participate. Just a side note. So goals for life, not to have more cars and houses, right? Like that gentleman I spoke to. Not to have a certain figure on your bank account, but grow in God. Learn to share. And I will quote a song that I really like. It's let a light shine brighter than ever than before. Flame that has been ignited, let it burn deeper than before. And our heart that burns with passion, let it beat stronger than ever before. Because everything inside me, and all that is that and will be, is yours. You are the air I breathe. You captured all of me. I surrender everything. Jesus, for you are my desire.